I'm just going to tell you right up front today that we are in a bad news part of the Bible. Yep, I'm going to depress you, sorry. We're talking bad news like when you're left on the outside looking in. You can think of those times, right? If you were on the outside looking into a party you didn't get invited to, maybe a team that you weren't chosen for, or maybe simply you were outside looking into some shoes or some clothes. You really wanted them, but you couldn't afford them. You wanted to go to a concert, but you couldn't get in. There's a place you wanted to visit, but your parents wouldn't let you go. You know how great it would be if you could get access to that, but the painful reality is you can't. And we all know there are more serious kinds of pain than just not going to parties or concerts. When we experience the pain of anxiety or depression, loneliness, shame, any complex feelings really that are haunting us, and it feels as if we're cut off from life the way we want it to be. We know surely it could be different where we didn't feel these things, but we can't seem to get there. When a loved one dies, or when parents divorce, or when we fight with a friend, we have a sense that all of this could be so much better. We want to live in a world where they didn't die, they didn't split, and we didn't fight, but we're cut off from that. Like we don't have access to that world. This world as we know it hurts. That world, as we can imagine it, doesn't. If only we weren't stuck in this world. Have you ever had feelings like that? I'm gonna guess, even if your life is really good, we've all longed for something better. And so today, we're gonna try to make some sense of those things that we feel. This is week 2 of a series that we're in, Built Different. We're asking big questions. They don't get much bigger than this. Asking about what kind of world do we live in? What is it all about and where did it come from? Why is it the way that it is? And what am I doing here? Do we think about that sometimes? Do you think about that? Sometimes, maybe not at lunch table conversations with your friends, but some point we all wonder. And if you wonder with me, we're picking up the Bible and reaching way back to the beginning, first book of the Bible, Genesis. Here we go. In week 1, Genesis 1, we watched God bring life and order out of darkness and chaos. Creation. God made it all. And to watch it unfold in Genesis 1, it's not viewing video camera footage of exactly how it happened blow by blow. No, Genesis 1 is a poetic reflection on all of that. And by the end of it, we know who made the world and who we are as humans within the world. We are, as we learned, the image of God, charged to care for the earth and govern it wisely on God's behalf. Now, this concept of image is kind of like what we do with statues sometimes. Well, it is and it isn't. Follow me here. Okay. In downtown Philadelphia, I was just there recently, there is this giant statue of George Washington. You see a picture of it. And when we tell you could say the creation story of our nation, George Washington is there at the pinnacle. Washington is laying claim to this land, and that's being visualized here. How do you know whose realm this is? Well, the image tells you. It's an image of the one who brought this nation into existence. Now, that creation story is about conquering and war. I mean, George Washington there on a horse, you see that. But the creation story of God's good world is not about conquering and domination. That's not what God's human images are for. They're gardeners, loving caretakers of what's good so that more good can multiply on the earth. Yes, they rule. They're responsible for being in charge. But that's not through violence or bullying. Instead, it happens through loving service. God gives them strength for their work. He breathes life into them, gives them the tree of life to eat. How do you know whose realm this is? Well, the image of God tells you. There's the image, man and woman together tending the garden. They're intimately connected to each other and to God. They're caring for all that God made, trusting God, receiving from God, flourishing in the paradise God made for them so that God's goodness could multiply all over the earth. That is the poetic and beautiful imagery of Genesis 2. You add that to Genesis 1 and it is all coming together quite wonderfully. The pieces are in place, and the man and the woman together are a shining image of the one who brought the world into existence. It's just the way God wants it. Isn't it great? when things work according to their design. Tell you what, students, if you talk to the old people sitting around you, they will tell you it is so great when the body works as it's designed. Oh, remember when my knees and hips were fluid and I could run and jump and twist like I was made to do.
Some guys have all the luck. I was born with glass bones and paper skin. Every morning I break my legs, and every afternoon I break my arms. At night, I lie awake in agony until my heart attacks put me to sleep. Oh, no! No! Ow.
And okay, when you hear them talk like this, just be kind and marvel with them at the poetic and beautiful imagery that they use to describe what they used to be able to do. And then notice as well, we're once again right back to where we started. They are describing yet another example of being outside looking in. See, they can imagine the flexibility and the strength and the energy that they once had. They long to live in a world where their joints don't hurt and they don't grunt every time they sit in a chair. Oh, yes, that world doesn't hurt. But this world does. As good as the world is, all of us have a sense things aren't working according to their design. And when we turn to Genesis 3, we find out why. The main voice in Genesis 1 and 2 is God's voice. God speaks, God directs. But there's a new voice that pipes up in Genesis 3, the snake. We don't know where it came from, we don't know why he can talk, but we know he ain't called good. And he makes a suggestion to the humans, the images that God made, Adam and Eve. The suggestion is that God is holding out on them. In Genesis 2, God's design for Adam and Eve is life within boundaries. That's how life works best. Now, we tend to think sometimes that life with no limits is great, but eventually we find out it can't work. Anyone who is coaching a team or leading a band or directing a play knows that there must be boundaries. There's instruction, lovingly given, so that the joy of the game or the music or the drama can be experienced by everyone. That's what God gives Adam and Eve, and it's anything but restrictive. You know, he says, enjoy the fruit of all the trees, just not the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That one will kill you. Did God really say that? The snake whispers into Eve's ear. No. God is not looking at this thing correctly. What you need is the ability to decide what's good for yourself. Don't trust God's word for you. In fact, you'll be like God if you eat from this good-looking tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Do you see what's going on there? The snake is trying to make the woman believe that she's left on the outside looking in to a good thing that she can't have. What a dirty little trick. She's going to be like God. She's already God's very own image. The man, by the way, is not doing anything, not speaking up, not defending his wife, just nothing. And the woman takes another look at that tree, sees how good it looks, desires to have it, and she reaches beyond God's boundary to take it and eat it. And her husband does too. You ever reached for something that you know you shouldn't? You ever crossed a boundary that you know was set up by a person who loves you? All of us have. And what we learn from the Bible, and what we know just from observing our own lives, is that we've all gone the way of Adam and Eve. And you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal about a piece of fruit? Well, it's not just some random naughty thing that God's overreacting about. This is fundamentally about who are you going to trust to decide what's good, to decide what's best. Do you believe that you know better than God? Do you believe that you should take what you want on your own terms? If you think that something looks good and it triggers this feeling inside of you of, I want, do you think that those are the impulses that should drive you? That boundaries should be wherever you want them, to the point that you could just erase what God set up or what others have set up and just do whatever seems good to you? Are you now the decider of all of that? You who are a created being, you who only exist because of the sheer gift of God to breathe life into you. Is this your world to mold into the image of whatever you think it should be? And is God being stingy with you, holding out on you, and not doing things the right way? Anyone who looks honestly at what Genesis is trying to teach us understands the answers to those questions. And they also, unfortunately, know the bad news consequences of trying to live outside of God's boundaries. After Adam and Eve eat the fruit, they become immediately afraid and ashamed. Can you relate to those feelings? They cover up. They hide themselves from God. They hide themselves from each other. They run away from God. God finds them. What is this you have done? They don't take ownership of their actions. They blame and point the finger. And the results are devastating. The ground is cursed. It still produces food, but only by painful labor. Women still produce children, but only by painful labor. And while death was not immediate for Adam and Eve, signs of death corrupt God's good world. And this tree of life, garden paradise, is no longer accessible to them. They and all of us are now outside looking in. And to this day, every fight, every war, every abuse, every prideful thought is a reminder. We are outside looking in. Our longings for a better world are still with us. And so is the pain of the world as it is. It is the pain that results when we believe that we know better than God. When we cultivate selfish desires. When we call evil things good and good things evil. And so ends Genesis 3. We were supposed to rule God's world, but sin rules us. I told you it was bad news. So, is there any good news? Yes, and we'll close with this. First, God is still good. God still loves the world and the humans that God made. Second, we are still the images of God. We've made a mess, and we can still make messes. But everyone you meet is made in the image of their Creator. No matter what you have done, it doesn't change who you are as God's image. Third, God crushes the snake, okay? Sin will not rule forever. God says in Genesis 3:15, there's a promise that the lineage of the woman will lead to a snake crusher. And the New Testament introduces him to us as Jesus. In a world marked by sin and death, Jesus himself dies only to defeat sin and death through his resurrected life. And Jesus gives us the access that we lost. He becomes a new tree of life to nourish us and strengthen us. And to be in a relationship with Jesus is to find paradise again. And all of that is a foretaste to number 4 God is bringing new creation. The first creation has been corrupted by sin. You and I have been corrupted by sin. But in Jesus, God is making all things new. The better world that we long for, where joints don't ache and fear is erased and there's no more crying or pain or death, that world is promised to us. And even now, as we trust Jesus and allow God's love to fill us, and as we love one another, we're getting a taste of that world. We can, even now, experience renewal and comfort, reconciliation and healing. Even now, we can be sustained in our longing for the better world that God promises to bring about. And so, as we wait for that, we praise God. For in His great mercy, He has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade.